Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod Hector, and special guest. He is a host with New York Post and SNY. He is also the host of New York Got Game. My guy, Dexter Henry. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? I'm good. Glad to be on here. You know, it's an honor when you get to be on one of your favorite podcasts. Here I am on the True Hoop podcast, one of the best when it comes to talking basketball. Gotta let the people know.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And obviously, you know, I've been on your show a ton, just for the listeners to know. Dex is one of my boys here in this business. God, we met trying to even think when we met. We met through a mutual friend, Brian, for sure. But I think I got on your old podcast first. And then, you know, over time it just kind of became like, oh, now we're just friends, and we talk all the time about
friends. Now we just talk about life and,
right,
and
exactly.
basketball and other stuff. Yeah, I think that was 2019, bro. 2018 to 2019. So 5 or 6 years, something like that.
No doubt. And so we're going to get into a whole lot of basketball today. I want to give our listeners a quick update. As you all know, Coach Thorpe is a Florida native and does live on the west coast of Florida, in the Tampa Clearwater area. He is fine. He and his wife Christy are actually in Alabama right now. And they are visiting with their son Max, who you all know, who is a graduate assistant with the Alabama men's basketball team. So he is fine. And he sent me pictures this morning to our True group chat that the house looks fine. And according to his neighbors, they still have power in the area. Obviously, there's downed trees and all sorts of crap like that. But in terms of like structural damage and like that, they seem to have avoided all that. So all is well with Coach Thorpe, and hopefully we'll have him back soon, sometime next week. Dex, we're going to get into our continued NBA previews. We'll do our 30 questions for 30 NBA teams, part 2. Dexter will be here for the Western Conference. We'll get to that in a minute. We're also going to talk about Bronny James. But I kind of want to hit you with this Dex, and it's a bit of a surprise. I was on Instagram, and I don't know when this video came out because, you know, with the algorithm, it could have been weeks ago. I don't know. But I saw Austin Rivers talking about, 11-year veteran Austin Rivers, talking about he doesn't understand why it is regular civilians, Joes, people who are not professional athletes, think that they can play basketball at the level of an NBA player, but they don't think that they can do that with any other professional sport. And I was like, this is interesting. And he talked about how he'd go to like LA Fitness or whatever to play pickup, and some guy will inevitably pick him up full court. And he'll be like, what are you doing? And he'll like go by him, dunk on him, hit a three, or, you know, do like normal shit. And then the person, man, you're better than I thought. And I just like, and it's baffling to me. And, you know, I'm asking you because I know we share similar sensibilities on this, because you and I would never go up to any NBA pro and be like, nope. Yeah, all right, let's check up, right? Like, no, I'm going to get killed. But it's hilarious how this stuff happens.
So there's a couple things here I think that happens to these people, because I'm with you. I would never do this. And I wonder for some of these people, Jarod, have you ever played basketball against somebody who's significantly better than you, right? just at any point in your life.
Right.
I, in high school, played against somebody who was an eventual pro in Gary Forbes. And I saw Gary Forbes cutting the back pick, blow past the 2-3 zone, rise up and dunk. And I was like, oh, that man's on a whole different level than me. So I've known it when I've seen it. I've played against guys one-on-one. I was a decent basketball player. I had some Division III offers. And then guys who were D1 players, I knew the difference. Now, it didn't mean I didn't compete. It didn't mean I'll go compete with an NBA player. That's a whole different thing. And listen, right now, and I don't play basketball as much anymore. I shoot around a little bit. I did that last week. Look, my 41-year-old ass is not going out there trying to pick up anybody full court. Nevertheless, somebody who's an NBA player. But to get into a larger scope of this, Jarod, I think there's sometimes a disrespect to the sport of basketball in the work that's put in. And I think it's because of the accessibility of the sport, right? Basketball is something you could go at LA Fitness and hop on and get a run. Mm-hmm. You could go at the park and just hop in with anybody and you don't know who's going to be there. That is a dope thing about basketball. But in the same time, I think people have been reductive to the sport a lot, and you don't sometimes see intelligent conversations. I hate to put it that way, right? Or conversations with nuance. As Jarod and I would like to say, unless you come here on True Hoop, that's where you can get that. But I think these things happen, and basketball's felt so reductive for people that it's just like, oh, you score points, you put the ball in the hoop, and that's it. They don't talk about the nuances of defense or what it takes to guard somebody that's an NBA player, why you might not want to pick them up full court because they have superior speed and athleticism and just will blow past you very easily, as Austin Rivers said. I think there's a like Greg said, a reductiveness to it that is almost not a thinking man's game when there's a lot of thought and strategy in
Yeah.
basketball that is incredibly hard. And yeah, man, those people are dumb. I'm going all the way around to say there's just some people that are stupid sometimes, and they're just disrespectful. I think it's ignorance. Maybe I shouldn't say stupid. That's harsh, but I think there's ignorance here in terms of basketball. I don't know. What do you think about it?
It's hilarious to me because only in sports do regular people do this, right? When we are flying on a
Mm,
plane and we
mm.
land somewhere and there's some turbulence or whatever, we don't go to the cockpit and be like, "Hey, Cap, I probably would have handled that turbulence a little bit different." Like you don't like we don't do that in any other walk of life. Like we just don't. Like where
So
we
your
don't have skill.
so your point is that we don't respect professionalism,
Yes,
and I
correct.
think that's true to a degree.
Yes. Yeah,
I,
we definitely don't. And again, and to your point, you said basketball is accessible, and it is. And I think it's also accessible in the way we consume it as fans, right?
mm,
And
mm,
so a casual or an average fan who maybe like they played high school, or maybe they even played low level D3 or whatever, and the higher level you played, you think like, oh, I got game and I'm pretty good at this, right? And you see a player like Austin Rivers, and you think, man, that guy's a scrub. He sucks. And I'm like, dog, like this man played in the NBA for 11 seasons. Like he does not suck. At one time, he was the number one high school player in the country. Like I'm going to guess most of you were never number one in high school in anything, right? In that kind of thing. So the idea that because you then make in your brain, oh, because he is not as good as all these other top end NBA players, he must be bad, right? And
right.
so if I go play him, I can hold my own. I mean, the perfect example of this is Scalabrine, right? When he played some dude one on one, and Scal had been out of the NBA for years, and the dude didn't score a bucket. Like you're not gonna do anything against these dudes. Like they were professionals for a reason. Right?
There's and there are levels to
Levels.
this, but I do think you make a fantastic point. It's funny. It's a point one of my boys had made to me recently, just talking about life and that we do not respect professionalism a lot of the times. And you're right. It probably happens more often with sports. Another profession I'll probably add that I think people get disrespected, and maybe this will connect for people a lot. I think it's sometimes teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Look, and no shade to anybody that homeschools their children or anything like that, but you're not a professional teacher, okay? And I think that some people can do that because they think, oh, I'm smart, I know this, but there's a level to knowing how to deal with kids, dealing with their emotions, those
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you're hoping that your teacher, if you have kids and you send them to school, this is what you're hoping they're doing. And I'm not saying somebody can homeschool their kids well, but there's a gap there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the
Yep.
gap might be like you running up on Austin Rivers, thinking you're going to shut him down, picking him up full court. That might be the same thing. And I think people are a little arrogant in thinking that they can do a lot of the things that they can do. But I think you're right. I think it does happen more with sports
Yeah. Yeah.
because some people haven't seen the levels, as you were mentioning, between you,
Wild.
high
Right.
school player,
Exactly.
right? The level between me and Austin Rivers, the gap is so wide.
It's
it is not. It is not funny,
like
right?
he played in the NBA, people. The
For
NBA.
11 years.
Right, the number one basketball league on planet Earth. And you at your LA Fitness or YMCA, you think, yeah, no, like, no. But you hit the nail on the head with the professionalism thing, and then we'll move on to Bronny.
Yeah.
People do not respect professionalism. And it's because there is a long been in this society an old adage, those who can't coach or teach, right? Those who cannot do
Mm,
it, teach others how
mm,
to do it. And nothing could be further from the truth. Like if you are a professional and you excel in the craft of coaching and teaching, I promise you, you people on the street, you can't do this, right? David Thorpe did not play in the NBA, yet all NBA MVP caliber players call him
right.
up to help them develop their skills. Why? Because he knows what the fuck he's doing,
Yes,
right? Like
he's a
he's a
master
professional.
at he's a master at his craft. And don't think I'll put some respect on Coach Thorpe's name. Don't think you could just go
Right,
out
right,
there and
right,
just do that.
right.
Right? Like that's not it. Real quick, this reminds me of a conversation I had in college. This is over 20 years ago. A guy I knew I used to play some intramural basketball with. He was a pretty decent basketball player, probably at the same level I was. I'll never forget. We were all around watching a Cleveland Cavs game. This when Bobby Sura was on the Cavs.
Okay, yeah.
And this dude was like, man, I could take Bobby Sura one-on-one.
No,
And
you can't.
yo, all of us were like, all of us in the apartment were like, nah, man, you can't do that. And he was real serious. Like, he really believed that he was gonna beat Bobby Sura. And you know what? You're right. Even then, a guy who I thought was pretty decent basketball player,
Mhm.
probably at my level, maybe a little bit
Right.
better, he thought he could beat Bobby Sura. Stop disrespecting the NBA players is what I'm saying. Just stop it. We don't
Exactly.
got to do this.
Exactly. We don't got to do this. An interesting article came out from Baxter Holmes, Dexter, about Bronny, and it had a number. And Baxter Holmes, by the way, one of ESPN's, if not only for sure, better journalists out there covering the league. And a
Yep.
number of sources said to him, talking about Bronny James, that you know they don't see positive things happening for him right now in the league, and they're concerned about his development. Those of you who listen to the podcast, David Thorpe and I have talked, and we've expressed our feelings that we think the Lakers, this is the worst possible place for him to go, because as David has said, and I agree, he is so far away from being a contributing, valuable NBA player, much less a rotation level, right? I mean, as we mentioned levels, he is nowhere near that yet. And the problem with being on the Lakers is it's a white hot furnace, and every single second it's going to be constant. When is Bronny going to play? When's this going to happen? Hey, what? And it's just all the time. Now, Bronny growing up as LeBron's son is probably used to a level of media attention, can handle it. I'm not saying anything about that. All good. My concern is his basketball development as a player. And if that is the constant conversation that is happening all the time, he's not going to get better sitting at the end of the Lakers bench. Like that, that's not going to help him. He needs to be in the G League playing all the time. I mean, first of all, see if he has an opportunity to even play in the G League, right? Getting his lumps and then working up from there. Because I mean, look, we've had players who David had a player who he worked with who was the worst player in the G League and became the G League's leading scorer in over the span of the year of a year. Bronny's not ready to be number one player in the G League. He's nowhere close to that level yet. And so I wonder about this, but I wanted to have you on and ask, so your perspective on the Bronny James coverage. And it came to light today that Shams Charania, who's now at ESPN, put out a report saying that the likelihood of Bron and Bronny sharing the court, quote unquote, soon is imminent, right? As in, like, in potentially opening night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I just, look, if the Lakers are doing this just for, like, TV and entertainment value for like 5 seconds, I guess okay. But if this is any kind of serious thing, I just think it's a bad move.
So I'm gonna say this in that I'll start off. I'm glad you brought that up with the Shams report. I was at Summer League this summer, and I spoke with somebody who is closely affiliated with the NBA and the G League. Most of the work done with the G League, and we were talking about the Bronny situation because I was out there. I saw Bronny's first game piece of that game, the opening quarter of that game, and he said to me, "Look." Because we talked about the same conversation. Well, what's his development going to be like? Is this a good situation from all that? I was talking to this person about it. And they said to me, look, here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to see him have a cup of coffee with the Lakers, get on court with his dad. He'll be down with the South Bay Lakers, and they'll really work on development. And I said to the person, if that happens, if it is played that way, if it works that way, then I think this could be good for him. If this is a serious thing, as you're mentioning, when I say serious, I mean that he's on the roster every night. Fans are going to be chanting for him to come in because some people are not going to be on your vibe, Jarod. Some people are not going to say, hey, I care about the development of this young man. They want a heartwarming story of this. And I know people who've been really excited about this in a way that I personally am not. Like, I think it's a cool thing. I just want to be very clear about that. If it was my son and I had a chance to play with him, I think it'd be dope. But kind of stops there. At the end of the day, this is a professional game. We want to see the best players in the world. We want to see people develop and have high level opportunities. So if what this person told me in the G League is true and what that will happen, and I do feel like the fact that Shams is reporting it today and is saying this now, I think the Lakers are somewhat aware. I'd hope so. They recently have been a media circus. They're always going to have a
Always.
bullseye on them because they're the Lakers. But recently, they become more of a circus. This could add to the circus. I think they want to try to deflect from that. Do you want to get a moment opening night with them together? Cool. I don't personally have a big problem with that. But this can't be a thing if you're serious about his development. This is where I'm on the same page with you and Coach Thorpe. And to address the article that was written by Baxter Holmes, which was a fantastic one with tons of sources, and including Rich Paul, who spoke with Baxter for this article. Look, and I'm going to echo something you said on the previous podcast. The nepotism aspect of this, I don't care about.
Right.
Nepotism happens in every industry all the time. Now, what I do care about when nepotism happens, and I do think there's pressure on the kids in this way, you better be good. If mom and dad hooked you up and got you in here, well, when you get to being a professional, I don't care what it is that you're doing, you got to end up doing it. Now, I'm not saying that's totally fair to Bronny, and Bronny had the cardiac arrest situation and all this stuff. I don't think he's had the full time to develop. I don't think he's ready to be a professional. Do I think he can be a good professional player? Yes, he's talked about himself being in the mold of a Derek White or that sort of play, that 3-and-D.
Derek White's very good. You got that's very good.
You agree? You feel like, but those guys are good. But I think they're reasonable targets. I don't think it's unreasonable.
No, not unreasonable.
For him to think that he could.
He's a long way from being Derek White and Drew Holiday. That's the thing, right?
But I do like the self-awareness into the prototype of player that he could be. And I'm going to add, this is what I think Jarod's been saying, with the right development, right? This is what he could do with the right development. And so if he is going to be in the South Bay Lakers, if he is going to play with them and they're really going to put the development in him, I think it's good. It'll be great for him. He'll be going up against other professional grown men who are hungry to make it to this league. There's guys in the G League that they ain't got their daddy to help them get there. And they're not trying to ride the bus in the G League. They're not trying to live that life anymore. They're hungry. If Bronny is about, I don't know him personally, if he's really about playing at that level, oh yeah, this could happen. But the Lakers also have to be serious about developing him. And so that's the thing for me. So look, if you want to make opening night a little nice, one shining moment with him and his dad on the court, yo, that's cool. I will applaud that.
Right.
How many people get to play? Nobody. Well, no, it hasn't happened. How many people? Nobody's got to play with their son in the NBA. That is a dope moment. But I think if LeBron, not necessarily more LeBron, and the Lakers truly care about his development, that's fine. I'm with you. I think it would have been better if Bronny probably was away from the spotlight of his dad. I actually really think that would have been better for him in the right organization. Because one thing Jarod and I always talk about, for people who know us and have watched us do content, everybody is not on the high level development tip, guys.
Got that right.
We know this. So, and the Lakers, to be honest, they've had some guys over the years that have developed in some good second round picks. Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart, but that's a different regime. Are they really going to be invested in this or Bronny? Time will tell. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad at him for being on the court with his dad. We just can't make this a spectacle. Because Jarod, I'm gonna throw this back at you. What happens if he has, let's say he has the moment opening night. I'm gonna throw out a hypothetical. Has a moment opening night out there with his dad. Everybody loves it. Maybe they even assist on a basket together.
Oh my
which
God,
would make everybody's minds go crazy. Let's say that happens. I'll even say, let's say it's somewhat of a competitive game. Bronny scores 6 points on 2 of 5 shooting. Gets a couple of rebounds.
Wow, that's incredible.
That would be a wow. I'm asking for a lot. I know. But what happens if then the questions, which I hope this doesn't happen, just want to be very clear.
Yeah.
Hey, JJ Redick. So Bronny, 6 points, 2 of 5 shooting, had a steal, couple of boards. Should he? Could we get more playing time on the court? We think he should be Could he be playing over Gabe Vincent? I'm just throwing out another guard that you could probably. That's not what you want. I don't think that's what you want to happen.
I agree.
But what happens if that happens, Jarod? That's a fair question. What happens if we get there?
Then I think we're in a disaster situation, because then I think the people who care more about generating storylines and eyeballs and views are going to be potentially making decisions that shouldn't be. Because even what you said, that is, I mean, it's possible, but it's just sort of like it would be fool's gold, right? Because the idea is he a contributing NBA player? Is when he's on the floor, are the Lakers a net positive? I know the answer right now. No. Like no, he's not ready. And yeah, I love the idea that he knows he is not an all-star 20-something point a game. Like those he knows he's not that. But let's be clear, I know you're not doing this and not disrespect Drew Holiday and Derek White, because my guy, that would be, in my estimation, and I'd love to hear David's thoughts on this. It would be a miracle if you turn into Drew Holiday or Derek White, because you know how good those dudes are. Again, people love to look at counting stats, right? Points like, oh, those guys aren't that good. Derek White and Drew Holiday are tops in estimated plus minus, right? In the higher end of the league. These are all defensive. I don't look. Bronny has exhibited defensive skills. I don't know if he's all defensive caliber. Like, you know how good you got to be all defense? So again, we have a long way to go before. I mean, David said he's got 4 years before he's even ready to be a contributing NBA player, much less Derek White or Drew Holiday, right?
I heard Coach Thorpe say that. And do you have 4 years if you're the Lakers? If you're the Lakers, we know what the climate is around a lot of things in the world, Jarod.
Now,
and everybody wants it now, right? And that has hurt certain teams in their building or development. Do the Lakers have the stomach for that, especially with the stardom and everything that comes around with Bronny? Do they? That's the question I really want to know. How committed are you? That's the question I'm really asking here: is how committed are the Lakers to the true development of Bronny James? If they're committed to the 4 years, and he did get guaranteed money, salute to you, LeBron James, for getting your son some guaranteed money as a 55th pick. I ain't got no problem with that.
Right.
If they are truly committed to that, then yeah, I think he could turn into a good player. I do think he's got the body type. He sounds like, from the Baxter Holmes article, sounds like he's got the work ethic for it and the hunger for it. But the two things have to come together, right? Those two things have to come together. If it comes together, then it's beautiful. If it doesn't, then it's a circus. And I don't think anybody wants that for that young man. I personally don't.
I agree. So we're very clear on this. David has said this. I said this. You've heard Dexter say it now. Like, we want what is best for that young man. We want the best possible opportunity for him to be in the right situation, for him to be the best version of a basketball player he's going to be, whatever that means. We have no idea. And what gives us pause is this Lakers circus. I don't love it. And also from a development standpoint, as David loves to say, the NBA has no monopoly on player development. I don't know how good the Lakers are at player development. We'll find out. We'll find out how good the South Bay Lakers are when he's down there. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, Dex, it is time now for 30 questions, 30 NBA teams. David, Coach Thorpe and I did the Eastern Conference Part 1, the 15 teams there. Now we are going to go to the West to recap for everybody. We each will have a question for the Western Conference teams and, sort of why we're asking this question and what we're thinking. All right, so the teams are all grouped like how they were grouped in the East. Also rans, play-in, maybe playoffs, and contenders. All right, Dex, we'll start with you. Also rans the Portland Trailblazers. What is your question for the Portland Trailblazers?
So my question with the Portland Trailblazers, first thing that popped to mind for me was like, what Scoot Henderson are we going to see? Scoot Henderson started off the season a little bit shaky, but played good in April. He was averaging just under 20 points, just under 10 assists. He played really good in April. Now, look, I also going to put things into context. It was April. The Trailblazers were way, way, way long out of it. Okay. But I was encouraged by a little bit of the shooting. He was hitting over 41% of his threes from downtown. That did look good. So can he build on that here into year two? Because the Blazers are trying to figure things out with their young core. They want to know who they have and what they got. This is a guy who was one of the top picks. He's a number 3 pick. They want to see what they've got from this guy. And that's my big question. What are they going to see? Because look, let's be real. They ain't going to be good. We know that. They're not going to be good at all. We want to see what they have with Donovan Clingan, obviously coming in to play, who's their future at center. It appears they've got some pieces they could still trade. But what Scoot Henderson are we going to see? I was encouraged by seeing that his shot looked better, because that was the thing for me. The shot from the outside was a little bit shaky last year. But listen, no, a lot of rookies don't come in shooting that well. And that's the thing. That's why, development, we're here again. I wasn't going crazy over Scoot Henderson struggling with his shot in year one for most of year one. This is going to happen. But what does it look like in year two? How has he developed? What's the work he's put on his game? And how does that look for the Portland Trailblazers? That's what I'm looking to see.
I love it. Look, you guys who listen to the show know David and I are fond of saying the NBA is fucking hard, man. Like this league is really, really difficult. And the idea of a rookie struggling, that's no surprise. Like most players, it takes by year 3, they become maybe net neutral and to a net positive. Like for year 4, like it doesn't happen overnight. Like it's very rare that happens right away. Like your Wembys, your LeBrons, right? Those are fucking could be well, LeBron already greatest player of all time. Like Wemby looks like he's
Mm-hmm.
on that track if he stays healthy. But those are once in a lifetime type players. Everybody else, hey man, you got to grind through this kind of thing. So I
Yep.
love that. So my question is actually a little, it's similar, but I wonder. You mentioned the trade pieces. Is their collective talent going to make them better than we think? Because look,
Hmm.
DeAndre Ayton, say what you want about him, is a good NBA center. Jeremy Grant is a good NBA power forward. Denny Avdia, who played for the terrible Washington Wizards, is a good NBA small forward, right? I mean, they've got guys who are net positives when you play. Like, so I wonder, like, is this gonna like Matisse Thybulle, like, are they gonna be a little bit better than we think they are? And David kind of did a little bit of a redress with his win total projection for them. Now I don't think they're gonna try to make any push for the play-in, but what do you do with those guys? And then you mentioned your Donovan Klingons, your Scoot Hendersons, you'll have your Tamari Kamaras, like all these younger players.
Shady and Sharp.
I mean, what do we
Mm-hmm.
do? Like, we got disparate timelines here, right? We got guys who are clearly starter level who can help you teams win now, and then we have these dudes who are still trying to figure out their footing. So it seems to be a little bit of an incongruence here. What's the plan? I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious to see what they ultimately end up doing there. All right, Utah Jazz. What's your question for
So
them?
it's so funny the Utah Jazz follow them because your question for the Trailblazers is my question for the Jazz. What is the plan and direction here with the Jazz? Once they re-signed Laurie Markkinen to the extension, they added that. That was the biggest thing for me. Okay, what are we doing at guard? Are we going with Colin Sexton? You got Jordan Clarkson. Those are guys that can help teams that are trying to win now. But I'm not sure what the Jazz are really trying to do here. Right? You got Collins on the team
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
as well too. I just don't know. They've got some good pieces where like they're good enough to flirt with the play-in, but are they going to really start trying to tank and maybe sit guys and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
injuries happen
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that they don't want to do it? I just don't know what their direction is here and what they're trying to do. Do they want to tank for Cooper Flag, who feels like he'd be perfectly fit in Utah for many reasons? Um, I just don't know. It's like they don't have a true direction. They seem to be a little bit ahead of Portland in
Yeah,
terms of,
yeah, yeah.
I would say, proven talent
Mm-hmm,
on the team.
mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Jarod, but I I just want to know what the direction is and are they going to pick it and then how soon are they going to pick it?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that's telling you guys were kind of talking about that even with the Nets in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to start trading pieces off? Clarkson's definitely a good option to be traded. They could get some picks. What are they doing, and are they really committed to building around
Yeah.
Laurie Markkinen? That's what I
I'm
want to
with
know.
you. And you said the thing, right? Danny has been kicking the can down the road for a while, right? My thing is, look, Laurie's excellent. Everybody that listens to this pod knows I love Laurie Markkinen. He's someone I believe because you inked him to that deal. That's a good deal. 4 years, 197, I want to say. Like that's movable, right? You can move that to a team that will have cap space. And Laurie is an all NBA caliber player, right? So who's young? He is 28, right? Still in his prime. Like so, and again, his timeline doesn't seem to match up with with some of the younger guys they have. Your Walker Kessler, who sadly is going to probably be out of the rotation, in favor of some other players. But I think Taylor in favor of Taylor Hendricks, who they recently drafted. Yeah, that's my question. I hear you on your wondering about that question. I do think my guess is they probably start moving some of those guys off. My question is, how good can Keontae George be? Here's another player who showed flashes of something, right? But he's so young. I want to say he might be 19 or 20. Let me check. Keontae George
I think he's
is
20.
20. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's a baby. I mean, played last year as a rookie, 75 games, 27 minutes a game, as you would imagine, among the worst players in the NBA, minus 3.5 EPM. But you saw flashes of like
You
this
did.
kid, he could be something maybe. So again, he does not seem to match up with Laurie at 27's timeline, right? That doesn't that's an imbalance there. And so I wonder, are they going to really strictly go with this youth route with Taylor Hendricks and some of these younger guys? And as you said, tank for Flag, because Flag checks so many boxes in the
Yes, he does.
for
Yes,
the
he
Utah
does.
Jazz. And we'll just leave it at that. Always good stuff. All right, we're getting to the play-in here now. Play-in
Yep.
range. Golden State Warriors. What is your question for the Warriors?
So I want to start this off by saying I actually like the Warriors offseason. I thought they had a very smart offseason. I know some people are like, oh, how could they move on from Clay? I actually think it was the right
Right.
decision.
Yeah.
And I like some of the pieces that they brought on to supplement what they have and that could play in the system that they have. And I actually think I don't know if I want to say they're a playoff team. I agree with the range you guys have them in as a play-in team right now, but I think they could be at the higher end of that. Here's the thing for me, and the question I'm going to ask is what I think could be legitimately the difference between them being a playoff team or a play-in team. Does Jonathan Kuminga make a leap to be a clear number 2 option and the help that Steph Curry really needs? Because there's a nice collection of players. It's not going to be Buddy Hield, okay? It's not going to be that. I know they love Pods, Brandon Podziemski, and I like Brandon Podziemski too. I think he's nice and fits into the system. But who's really going to be there? Andrew Wiggins, we've seen some regression from him in the last couple of seasons. And obviously, he had a lot going on in life. But I think it's really about Kuminga. Does he really make that next leap? He's another guy I'm keeping my eye on. Played very well towards the end of last season. Like some of the things I saw for him, I think it's about slowing down, opening up his game a little bit more with the shot. You were starting to see that the game seemed to have been starting to slow down for him, Jarod. Do we see more of that here this season? If that happens, and I believe he's also extension eligible,
I think so, yeah.
this is going to be very interesting, and it'll be a home run for the Warriors and might tweak their plans about what they can do to extend their opportunity to win on the back end of Stephen Curry's career.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I mean, that's big, right? So, David, we love to say on this show, the hardest jump to make in the NBA is from all-star to superstar, right? That's what we think is the hardest. But maybe the second hardest jump is to become, right, like a legitimate, like all-star caliber player from an NBA starter rotation level, right? It's just fucking hard, man. Again, this league is very, very difficult. He has been making steady progression. Jonathan Kuminga is 21. They could be 22 this playing season. He's already a net positive right now. Can he step up another level? He's super athletic. We can see it. Like we see him shoot. We see him shoot well from 3 in spurts. Right? Consistency. Right? Like anybody. Look, I seen Perry Jones III have a 30-something point game in this league. Right? I mean, it can happen here and there for just about anybody. The question is, can you consistently be X? And that's what's so hard. That's why there's only so many few all-stars, so many few super. Right? That's because it's hard to be that good consistently. My question is kind of similar to yours, which is where will they get secondary and tertiary shot creation from? Yes, Steph, great. I know that. Who else? Is it going to be Kuminga, like you're saying? We talked about Wiggins, and again, we're gonna Wiggins has had a tough last 18 months or so. His father was very sick, and obviously just recently died. So a lot going on with him. So we'll see. But yeah, I have questions about their secondary and tertiary shot creation. All right, the Houston Rockets.
Rockets are such an interesting team, right? A lot of young players. I've been trying. I was trying to sometimes keep it broad or put these down to one player, and for me, it's does Jalen Green fit with this team? That's my big question, because there was a lot of questions at the end of the season. Alperen Şengün had a breakout season. I believe Alperen Şengün was 3rd in most improved player voting last year, and you really saw what he can do as a big who can play a little bit with his back to the basket. We're starting to see some bigs come back with that in the NBA. Then you saw the team look good, or Jalen Green, his game take off when Şengün was injured and not on the floor at the end of the season. But Jalen Green, Jalen Green, he's been inconsistent. Let's keep it real until the end of last year. So I don't know. And I think with both of those guys, the Rockets are trying to figure out, who do we give an extension to? Do we want to give it to both of them? Do they both work in the core? But I have more questions about Jalen Green, Jarod.
Oh, yeah.
The shot's been inconsistent. He's shown flashes of athleticism. And this is a guy I really liked coming out of the draft. Just want to be clear. But he hasn't been consistent with there and hasn't really taken a leap. This is a huge year for him. I
Big
thought
time.
last year was a big year for him. He did show some promise at the end, but I need to see it over the course of a season. And if I was running the Rockets or the front office, I need to see it before I give you a bag.
Correct.
So I'm not sure he fits in the way that he does. And I wonder, would they be willing to trade him if Ime Udoka thinks that this team is a veteran, strong piece away from becoming a playoff team? Is
Yeah.
that somebody they move off of?
Yeah.
Say, okay, we're going with Şengün, we're going with these other
Mhm.
pieces around, and
Mhm.
then we'll see. We need to see what Jalen Green is because I'm not necessarily sure that he fits.
You're dead on, Coach Thorpe. We talked about Jalen Green a lot. This will be year 4 coming up. He has made the incremental improvement in terms of his estimated plus minus. Right, his first year in the league, he was terrible, one of the worst players in the league. Slightly better his second year, almost a net neutral last year. Like I don't think people understand how big of a jump that is to being one of the worst players in the league, according to advanced metrics, to basically being almost net neutral by year 3. Huge. So he's following the right progression. To your point, this is the year, however, he must now be a net positive, right?
Has to be.
The shot's got to be consistent now because this is year 4 and it's the extension eligible time, all the things, right? So this has to happen now. And again, not like right off the bat, but like we have to see the growth throughout the season. Will it happen? We don't know, right? Has he figured out the way to play 5-on-5 basketball, right? Time will tell. My question is can Alperen Şengün be an all-star? And I think if he can make that leap, I think you're cooking with grease down there because Jabari Smith Jr. similarly is also made the right leaps, right? Rookie year, one of the worst players. Last year, almost a net neutral, which means I expect net positive this year in year 3 as a 21-year-old. Şengün's already in this to be his 4th year. He was net positive in year 2, right? So ahead of the curve than those other guys. We know what he can do. It looks like he's added at least the willingness to shoot more threes to his game. If he's making that, in addition to his back to the basket game, again, big jump to make from starter to all-star. But if that is the case, man, I love what they're doing down there because Udoka's got this team guarding. They're very, very good. I think we keep our eyes on what's going on down there in Houston this year for sure. All right, a team that is so interesting, the Los Angeles Clippers.
Look, man, when it comes to people have heard me say in other shows, clips gonna clip. I'm not even gonna really go there. But what I will say is, look, this comes down to Kawhi Leonard. My question here: will Kawhi Leonard be healthy when it matters? That's the key. And because I'm gonna put a little 2-part questions on here. If we probably expect Kawhi to not be healthy at some point this season, that is a fair assumption. You can do all that, but do the Clippers have enough to get to where it matters for Kawhi to be healthy when it matters? And will he be healthy when it matters? A lot of question marks there, right? And that's the thing. We haven't seen Kawhi finish the season. The injuries have ended his runs in the playoffs the last 2 years. And do I trust James Harden to be enough to carry this team by himself?
Not at this stage of his career,
no. And so that's my question. You want Kawhi to be ready for the playoffs, but you're also going to need him to get to the playoffs. And then the knee condition for Kawhi is chronic.
Correct.
At where he is in his career, he probably isn't going to play a lot of if any, or much back-to-backs, and probably shouldn't.
Correct.
But how much does that hurt the Clippers into getting where they want to go? They don't have Paul George there anymore to take some of that load. So, yeah, will Kawhi be healthy when it matters? And, listen, if he's healthy, yeah, they can still be dangerous. I don't think they're in championship contention. We get dangerous, but I can't trust for him to be healthy when it matters. And I think you're going to need him to get to where it matters.
I mean, look, previous seasons will tell you the likelihood of him, finishing an entire season with no issues, highly unlikely. This is an important year for Clippers because there's year 1 in their new arena, right?
Yep.
So Bomber's going to want this team to be good and everybody be excited about it. My question is, when do they rebuild? When do they start the rebuild? Because Harden is obviously already north of 34, 35. Kawhi's north of 32, 33. I might be a little bit off a year or two by the ages, but both of them are on the wrong side of 30, right? Still, when they play and when they are right, still very effective players. Kawhi still at an all-NBA level, and James Harden all-star to all-NBA-ish, third team levels when he's right. But they're old, and if they get hurt, who else is on that team to do anything? right?
If
Like,
you were Lawrence Frank, when would you start to rebuild?
I mean, look, the
You
problem
probably
is
done it before this
the,
offseason.
the problem is that who can you move? Which of those two contracts can you move to get off of to give yourself some relief and bring back some kind of draft capital and young talent, right? Like, not much, right? Who's gonna
Right.
want a chronically injured Kawhi Leonard? Who's gonna want an older James Harden? Not many people, right? And so look, they're gonna probably have to ride this out. They got Derrick Jones Jr., who played well for Dallas last year. I'm a big Terrence Mann fan. We'll see. We already saw reports that PJ Tucker will be away from the team as they figure out to work out some kind of trade to send him somewhere else. I think this is going to get bad in Clipperland, and when you open up a brand new arena, this is not great. Not great.
Not good.
No, I don't like it. All right, the Lakers. We talked about them a little bit from a Bronny perspective. What's your question for the Lakers?
Yeah, at first I was going to go to Bronny. It's like, how much will Bronny play on the court this year? But I'm not going to do that to the people. Look, you and I have talked about this the last couple of years. The Lakers, if their stars are healthy, LeBron James and Anthony Davis have shown that they can be good. We saw 2 seasons ago run to the Western Conference Finals. However, if you know me and Jarod in our conversations, we do not like to overlook age. And I understand that LeBron James has been defeating Father Time and still plays at a very high level, and what we saw from him in the Olympics and all that stuff. But he's going to start slowing down more and more and more. It's only inevitable. So the question for me is, can the Lakers get him some actual help? Now, some people may look and say, oh, is that a third star? Maybe. I don't know who that is. You're going to see Zach LaVine's name thrown out there again. You're going to see Trae Young's name thrown out there again. I'm not sure those guys are the answers, but could they get him? I don't know what they had years ago before they decided to trade for Russell Westbrook. Some nice, good 3-and-D players that could be around them that could really help the team elevate them to at least fringe contender status. I think that's the thing. Are they going to get LeBron James some help and Anthony Davis some help, assuming those guys stay healthy? Can they go out and make the right trade to get him help? That's the big question for me with the Lakers.
Yeah, we'll see. My question is about Bronny, and it's, will they do right by him? Right? And we talked about, to start the show, what I consider right by him is. I get it. Everybody wants the Hollywood moment of fine, I guess, do it. But I would immediately after that send him right down to South Bay and be like, this is where you're going to stay, my friend. Like, until you are exhibiting the traits and the development necessary for you to get to the next step. But to be clear, I don't expect that to happen in year 1. So, right, I expect him to be a G leaguer for quite a while, right? And so we'll see. We will see how that all plays itself out. Will they do right by him? That's my question. All right, the Pelicans.
Look, for me with the Pelicans, who have a very talented roster, I thought about this one hard, and I was like, okay, well, what's going to happen with their starting lineup now? They have DeJounte Murray. Is CJ McCollum going to come off the bench? But I think the bigger question for them is, what are they doing at center? Because they've got a rookie in Yves Missi, who I liked. I liked coming out of this draft, but he's a rookie. And as you know, guys who listen to the show, you know how Jarod and Coach Thorpe feel about rookies and the adjustment they have to make to playing this amazing game of basketball at the NBA level. What are they going to do at center? Do they have enough there? It's Yves Missi. I believe backing him up is Daniel Tice, who's a very good backup center. But do they have enough there? Are they going to try to play smaller with more of Zion Williamson at center, who's not a great rebounder? So that's my thing. What are they going to do about size to defend, and especially in the West, right? You got to defend Jokic. You got to even have an answer for Gobert. I know Towns is not there anymore in Minnesota. You've got AD. You've got some really talented bigs there in the West. Domantas Sabonis. What are you going to do? So I think they have to figure out what they're going to do at center. I like that Misi's probably getting the shot to start, number 1 on the depth chart right now, but it's going to be a learning curve for him. Or is he going to be a guy that we see towards the end of the year that he looks like this year's Derek Lively? Maybe that's the case, but I think that's asking a lot, though. And I think what helped Lively, to be very clear on that point, is that Lively had Gafford to split minutes with, and everything wasn't being asked of him. They had a good, reliable option in terms of a backup. You might say Daniel Gafford's one of the best backup centers in the league. He is, and they had that. So,
and Lively also plays with Luka Doncic.
that helps too. He plays with a top 3 player in the league. That helps too. Good point, Jarod. Yes.
I mean, let's be honest, right? Rising tides lift all ships. Like, when you give the best lob passer, like whatever. Okay, well, like, and you're a rim running center, kind of works.
That
No, I'm
helps.
with you there. I look, you and I talked about this article when it came out. Where was it? Was it on the Ringer or ESPN? I don't remember, but it was a Zion article about how his workouts and how he's
No.
slimmed down and ready. And I texted you and I said, this is the third article like this we've already seen in Zion's career during an offseason. He's slimmed down. He's in the best shape of his life. I'm like, you're already doing that, and this man ain't even 25 years old yet. And we still on the he's in the best shape of his life thing. Okay. So my question is new Zion a thing? Is he ready to
Mm.
fulfill the massive potential that we all know he has?
What does that look like to you? Because last year was the healthiest season that he had,
Yes.
Jarod. But
Yes.
just for the listeners, what does
Yeah.
that look like to you in terms of fulfilling that potential?
It is consistency, right? Because he would have stretches where it'd be like, wow, he's been playing well for the last like 8 weeks, 2 months, whatever. And then we have whatever happened when they went to Vegas for the in-season tournament. And I was like, what is this? Like, this
What
is a
happened
big
there?
game. What?
Yeah.
I was like, what happened to that boy? I was like, literally, like, what? I was like, what is he doing right now? Like, what's happening? This is a big game for him. And nothing, right? Like, it just, we saw the pictures of him. Like, I'm like, were you out all night? Like, what is the deal, my guy? Like, it just, and then of course he was the injury was unfortunate that happened at the end of last season as they were heading towards the postseason. And that robbed him of his first opportunity. So again, have you taken everything seriously? Your diet, all, because again, you have to know yourself. He is the type of person, body type wise, it seems to me that when he is injured and hurt, it is very easy for him to put on weight, like quickly. Well, we can't have that, right? Because then when you come back and you're not the right weight, it leads to further injuries because your joints are supporting too much, right? It's so much. Like, again, we talk about being in this league, it's hard. It's not just about your dedication to your on-court work. It is, are you living and doing everything right off court so that you are your best on the court? Because listen, when he is right, this is David said it, MVP caliber player who can all NBA first team. He is that kind of dude. We should be talking about him in the same way we talk about Wemby and all these, right? That's who he is. But I want to see that. And that to me will be, all right, I've done everything in the offseason and like I will continue to have my personal chef, all the things he needs. Nah, man, it's basketball focus. If he does that, well then look, sky's the limit because he's a wrecking crew, right? Like he's a one-man wrecking crew and nobody can stop that dude. So that's what I'm looking to see after the fourth article of is this Zion ready?
Oh man.
Sacramento Kings.
Okay. So here's the Kings. Everybody's going to be happy about their, I don't call it a new toy, but it's a new addition for them, and DeMar DeRozan. But what's been plaguing the Kings, folks? It's very simple. It's one word: defense.
Mm-hmm.
Defense, 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 defense. The Kings have not finished higher than 18th in defense since 2006. Okay, we know they can put up points. We know how good De'Aaron Fox is in the clutch. DeMar DeRozan is in the clutch, but can they stop anybody? And that's going to be the thing that's going to elevate them to that next level. If they are able to get stops, yeah, I think they could be somewhere between 5th and 6th in the West because they have the talent to do that. If they're not, then I think they're, a low end playoff team that's going to be nice in the first round, maybe pushes somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But it really comes down to defense. Can Mike Brown get the team? He got them to play with great pace 2 seasons ago. Can he get that team to actually buy in on defense? That's a key question for me.
I'm with you. So my question is about De'Aaron Fox. Dexter, I mentioned that the hardest jump to make in the NBA is from all-star to superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Can De'Aaron Fox be a superstar in this league? In 2023, he was an all-star and all-NBA third team.
Yep.
Did not repeat that in 2024. Can he be that?
Look, it's hard to be we know like the values in all NBA, right? And being one of the 15 best players of the league.
And it's hard, to be clear, to be that.
It's hard, man. And it's hard to do it consistently. This is why sometimes I used to sometimes, even though I had my issues with him as a player, people used to have Julius Randle slander with the Knicks. I'm like, okay, you made 2 all NBA teams. Probably would have made a third if he didn't get hurt last year. De'Aaron Fox has showed that some of the breakout that we saw 2 seasons ago with his jump shot, which is what really had him take the leap, along with his decision making, and he did become a little bit more of a positive on defense last year, which was encouraging to me with De'Aaron Fox.
Steals leader last year.
You know what? I think our questions combined are good ones, Jarod, because he needs to make that leap for them.
I think so.
Combined with the defense.
That's what I think.
They have. He's an all-star. He's been a one-time All-NBA player. Domantas Sabonis is a very good player.
I like Kevin Huerter, like DeRozan. Yep.
Right, DeRozan's a very good player, but he's on the downside of his career.
Yep.
They need him to ascend to superstar status. I think it's a great question.
Yeah, it's just, so much of these teams, Dexter, what we talk about at True all the time is, where is the young talent on the team going to be that can make that leap? Who is it? And do they have it? Is there oxygen for that player to do it? And that's literally what we're constantly asking all the time about these teams, because the known commodities, we know what they are, right? All right, San Antonio Spurs.
San Antonio Spurs. This is all about the fact that they've got an adult in the room. Not Greg. That is not Greg Popovich. To be clear, that is Chris Paul. So one of the things I remember speaking with you about this before Victor Wembanyama was drafted, we were very curious about how the Spurs would use him. And one of the things you were telling me is like, look, I think they should use him in more movement action. Don't put the ball in his hands a lot in year one and force him to do things. Wemby had to do some of that because he didn't have a true point guard starting next to him for most of the season last year, because the Spurs were clearly tanking and decided to go with the Jeremy Sohan experiment, who I like. I just want to be clear. I like Jeremy Sohan. I think he can be a jack of all trades player for you and can be a really good player in your rotation. I think he's a winning player for that, but he was not a point guard. And now he's got an adult point guard in the room with CP3. Does CP3 make Wemby more efficient? That's the key for me. Is he going to know how to get him to his spots, that he can get him easy shots, that they can use him off action, that maybe he doesn't have to isolate as heavy? I think he's going to make his life better because CP3 is that good. I think it's fantastic for him, but how efficient does he make him?
Yeah,
that's the big question for me here for Wemby in year 2.
Well, here's what I just joked about this all off season. Well, the one thing we do know is we now have someone who can throw a competent entry pass into him, right? That's the one thing we know we have now on this team. Look, I think Chris will be very good for him, the point guard, and we'll see how he really helps him. My question is, how much will Wemby improve offensively? Because actually, he's already a defensive player of the year caliber player. Like
he might
right
be
now,
the favorite.
Correct. I mean, you listen. The only reason he didn't win it last year was because his team was shit. But if they were slightly better, all the defensive metrics said he was the best defender in the league last year, right? So we know that. If he can just make a slight improvement off it, I'm not even saying become a 20-something. I'm not none of that. I'm saying, all right, you shot 32% for the year from 3, but that was a major jump because you started the year shooting like 18. So like to get to that, Dex, if he can shoot 35% from 3, 36,
that's scary.
That's
scary. That's
right?
Scary.
And if he can take advantage of those points you said about getting just some easier buckets on offense, right? Because again, we talk about the game slowing down and recognizing, oh man, not even about running plays and ISO and any of that kind of shit, but just like, oh man, here's an opportunity where I can just get an easy basket off of a putback. Or if he just starts figuring out little things like that, which again, I want to be clear, is not easy to do because this league is very hard and there's other people stopping you from doing that. Look out, man. That's why I have them could they potentially be play-in caliber? Because if he's better offensively, man.
Scary times for the league. Scary times.
You got that right. All right. It's so interesting. All right. Playoff zone now. The Memphis Grizzlies.
Your Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, your Memphis Grizzlies, and my question is about your guy. Everybody's going to be like, oh, how's Ja Morant going to be when he comes back, yada, yada. Your guy, Triple J.
Yes, sir.
Not 2 years ago, we saw Tripp win the Defensive Player of the Year, which he absolutely deserved. And I think people needed to see his prowess as somebody who could roam, guard multiple positions, and also protect the basket, which is what I love about him defensively. My question for him this year with the Grizzlies is, How does he look fitting next to Zach Edey if Zach Edey is the answer at center? That
Mm-hmm.
is the question for me. If the Grizzlies are going to go big, and the Grizzlies seem to be high on Zach Edey at
They
center,
are.
then if you have Zach Edey at center, who I think is actually a little bit better defensively than people are giving him credit for, what you worry about a little bit is the foot speed. But if you got a guy next to him like Tripp who can cover a lot of ground and stretch the floor, because we love that about him too.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, because it's not just defensively for me,
Right.
how does Tripp's game look offensively
Mm-hmm.
next to
Mm-hmm.
Zach Edey
Mm-hmm.
and being able to stretch the floor? Did he add a little bit more to his bag, which I've been asking for Tripp over the years as time goes on? And this is not me saying, Jarod knows how I feel about Tripp. I think he's a really, really good player that I just always have wanted to see a little bit more in the bag offensively. But I think he's there offensively. I just want to see how they fit with him playing a little bit of the 4. How does that work for the Grizzlies? Because I think if it works right, and it looks good,
right,
the Grizzlies have unlocked something that allows them to match up well. And I think this was the thinking with drafting Zach Edey with a Denver, with Minnesota, with Dallas, the teams we're going to talk about next and soon. I think that this is good for them, but Tripp is going to be the key to unlocking that. How does he look in that alignment, playing at the 4, and still, I think you'll still see him a bit at the 5 too.
When they go small, sure. Yep, and put Brandon Clark at the 4. Look, so everyone knows Coach Thorpe has talked about he is concerned about Zach Edey, right? First of all, he's a rookie, which we've said a million times on this podcast.
Yes.
It's very rare that rookies come in to year 1 and make any kind of positive impact. So David does not see Zach Edey being the answer for sure in year 1. There are concerns about his foot speed and those kinds of things. And, it's going to be growing pains for sure. I mean, he's replacing Steven Adams, who, this was one of the best rebounders in the game, screen setters, again, skills that don't show up, that people don't see. But so much of the Grizzlies' offense, Dexter, was Steven Adams' offensive rebound, right? Put back, and right. So now my question is, what will the Grizzlies' new offense look like? And the offense has changed in their preseason so far. It's emphasized more ball player movement, cutting, that kind of thing. They haven't sort of taken the ball out of Ja's hands, but what they've done is instead of having everything be on his shoulders where everybody clears out, he takes his man in the rim and he elevates, and which, again, look, exciting. We all have to see that, but that is not great for his long-term prognosis in this league health-wise, right? So in a sense, it looks like the ball's out of his hands a bit, but it's going to involve more players and more movement and action. Will that actually allow the Grizzlies as a whole to be better, right? So in a weird way, Ja has the ball less in his hands, but the team's offense is overall better. Look, Stephen Curry doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot of the times in Golden State, and he scores plenty of points, right? So what basically, it's kind of part 2 to my question. Obviously, will the offense be better? And did Ja Morant, in his time away, did he learn to shoot consistently? Because if that is there, that unlocks everything else.
I couldn't agree more. And I've watched a little bit of the Grizzlies in the preseason. You see some of that off-ball action with Jarod, with Jarod, and I wonder if he has improved the shooting. Can you get into some situations where he's getting catch and shoot threes, and if he's hitting it at an effective clip? Well, that was the key for Ja Morant, but he's also not having to exert a lot of energy, bringing up the ball, isolating. Now, I just like the fact that the Grizzlies are even trying this change and understanding that they have to diversify the offense. And that's where part of the Tripp stuff comes in with him at the 4 and all that other stuff. But if Ja is doing what you said and the shots improve, look, I'm already high on the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies, people are forgetting about them.
Yeah.
I will say this right now. I'm high on them making a jump. I'm going to say this. I think the Grizzlies will be top 4 in the West. Because I believe in the coaching staff, their development, and all the stuff they've done. I think things will work for them. I wouldn't sleep on the Grizzlies this year if I was
definitely not. I mean, you know how the league is. What have you done for me lately, right? That seems people forget about you. All right, the Phoenix Suns.
This is a team I've not been high on their roster construction and assembly the last couple of years, right? And they're restricted by the second apron because, man, Ishbia decided to go all in on Bradley Beal when I don't think he needed to go all in on Bradley
Correct.
Beal. But they did make some small, maybe under-the-radar moves this summer that I liked in Tyus Jones and Monty Morris. Tyus Jones, a very solid guard, could start for you, will not turn the ball over. I like that. Takes the ball out of Devin Booker's hands, who was playing a lot of point guard last year. So this is kind of like what Jarod was bringing up about the Grizzlies right here. Does the addition of Jones and Monty Morris make life easier for the Sun Stars offensively? In theory, it should. how much does that help the Suns? Now, I think it all comes down to can Bradley Beal stay healthy for them, which he has not proven to do. But I think these are solid additions at the point guard spot that takes the ball out of Devin Booker's hands a little bit and allows him to be more creative offensively with a coach who can be creative offensively, like Mike Budenholzer, who's there now in Phoenix. Does that help? So do those two additions, some stability at the point guard spot, help the Suns stars? That's my big question for this season.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. Look, you know what you're going to get from KD and Book. So my question for the Suns is, how many games is Bradley Beal going to play this year?
Yeah.
That's the key. If he plays 65 games or more, they'll be fine. They'll make the playoffs. If he doesn't, it'll be too much burden on Durant and Beal and Booker, excuse me. And, they'll wear down injuries, whatever, and then they'll be in the play-in territory, right? Again, Bradley Beal's only 30. I talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago. We did a thing where we had 5 players to watch this year. And I mentioned Bradley Beal. And the question I said was, who is he, Dexter, as a player? Who is he? Who is Bradley Beal? This is someone who's made an All-NBA, who's been an All-Star a few times. Is that just it? The one time, I think it's one-time All-NBA, a few-time All-Star. Is that it? Is that the high water mark of his career? Or is he something more than that? We'll find out.
We'll see.
All right, we're getting into our contenders now. The defending Western Conference champion, Dallas Mavericks.
Okay. Dallas Mavericks. Mavericks fans, everybody is excited. Derrick Jones Jr. out, goes to the Clippers. Klay Thompson in. Everybody's excited about Klay. But if you've been watching basketball carefully and you aren't just enamored with the past and history and what people did a long time ago, then you will actually realize that Klay Thompson, not to any fault of his own, due to the injuries that he's had, has regressed as a player defensively. So, with that said, do I understand the value of Klay Thompson on the floor for the Dallas Mavericks and the spacing that he can provide and how that helps Luka Doncic, who everybody knows is one of my favorite players in the league? Sure. But, Jarod, what matters in the closing minutes of high-level games in the NBA? Can you defend? Can you stay on the floor and defend? So this is my question for the Mavericks. Can Klay Thompson play in closing minutes of high-stress games where he's not a liability on defense? Because, look, as much as I love Luka, we've seen that man be a turnstile on defense plenty of times. We saw it in the finals.
We sure did.
Where I was looking at him like, damn, bro, you can't step up here in the finals. And Luka's got to get better on that end. So that could be a question.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be really about Klay because they ain't taking Luka off the floor. We know that.
Definitely not.
Can Klay defend at a reasonable level where he's not hurting you in closing minutes of a high-stakes game?
Yep. I'm with you there. One thing I'm also paying attention to is Klay has played in a different offense his entire career, a motion and player movement based offense, read and react. That ain't how they play in Dallas. This is the Luka Doncic and the Pips offense, right? This is high pick and roll. Let Luka double comes one pass. Okay, so just be aware of that, right? Not a whole lot of ball player movement. Luka's kind of just holding the ball for a while, surveying. So that's something to be wary of. I wonder, is Jason Kidd the right coach to take this team to the promised land? Now, you can say to me, well, Jarod, they went to the finals last year, so obviously he is. Maybe. As everyone knows, Coach Thorpe has had his questions about Jason Kidd on this show. In many ways, look, when you have Luka on offense, you kind of need to do a whole lot, right? Luka's pretty good on his own, at knowing what to do. Can you do the other things to maximize the abilities of everybody else? Can you communicate that through to your star? Can you get Luka to? He don't need to be no all defensive player. Can he not be a turnstile? Right? You're asking for little things, right? Is Jason Kidd the answer for that? Can he be the person that solves those problems? I don't know. Time will tell. All right. Next team up on our contender list, we have the Denver Nuggets.
The Denver Nuggets are arguably, for me, one of the most intriguing teams in the NBA this season. And it really comes to do with the decisions their front office has made recently, right? Not bringing back KCP. Obviously, let Bruce Brown go the year before. So some of the great role players that they had are now gone. Now you're relying on some kids, and I didn't even mention Russell Westbrook.
Correct.
Who we know his struggles from the outside. I see what they're trying to do with a Russell Westbrook and another guy who can help push the pace for you in transition, maybe get you some easy buckets. Is a willing passer, which he doesn't get enough credit for at times in making the right pass. How does he fit? But with the non-shooting, can he stay on the floor? That's not my question, though. My question, though, is all right, KCP out. Now you're relying Calvin Booth, who made these decisions, on kids to step up. Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, Strother, Julian Strother. Are those guys ready to step up? Are the kids ready to step up? We've seen Braun get some playoff minutes. We've seen Watson get a couple of playoff minutes as they've tried to bring him along, but now they're really going to be relied upon. Now you're like, okay, can you guys help Nikola Jokic? Nikola Jokic makes guys better around him. We know that undoubtedly for sure, best player in the league, no doubt. But are these kids ready to step up? That's my big question for the Nuggets. If they are, Nuggets are right back to cooking and being and competing for this title again. If they're not, we could see some regression.
Yeah, my question is similar. It isn't about the kids, but it's about basically Jokic's co-star. Can Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. become an all-star this year? Right? Like, we already know what Nikola Jokic is. The issue for Jamal Murray is we've seen him microwave in stretches, right? Playoff run for 5 weeks, a stretch in the regular season where he's great for 6 weeks, but something always happens, injury, whatever, derails, and he doesn't, right? Can you string together a consistent season where you are an all-star caliber player? Him or Michael Porter Jr.? We know what MPJ can do offensively. We've seen it. He's gotten better defensively. Can one of you be literally, I know people say, well, Murray's his co-star. Yeah, but I mean, not just in name, but also in accolade. Can someone else on this team be an all-star? All right, moving along. The Minnesota Timberwolves.
So for the Timberwolves, for me, this changes with the trade for Cat. And are they going to have spacing issues? How does Julius Randle look next to Rudy Gobert? For Julius Randle, it's going to come back to, can he get back to what he was 2 seasons ago in shooting about 35% from downtown, only 31% last year. So saw a bit of a regression, struggled with a shot early in the season with the Knicks. Now, if he's hitting about 35%, that bodes really well for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they've got some of the spacing, and they have a secondary shot creator behind Anthony Edwards. But I do think there's concerns about what the spacing will be next to Gobert. And then is Naz Reid a better fit for you to close lineups with at the 5 over Gobert? That's going to be interesting. What's the spacing? How do they close? How does Randle fit into all of that? As I'm saying, Randle's a really good player. It's just, is the shooting going to come back that is going to give them the requisite spacing that they need, I think, to help Anthony Edwards and get to the next level? And can Rudy Gobert close games?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically my question. Who's going to emerge as another shooter for the Minnesota Timberwolves? We saw in spurts McDaniels hit threes in the postseason. If he is the body type, we don't know he can play great defense. To be the prototypical 3-and-D player. If that is the case, then yes, right? Because if he is a 37, 38% 3-point shooter, well, yeah, now you got a wing defender who can lock up the other team's number 1 player, along with Ant, who also plays good defense. Yes, now we're talking. So that's what I want to know about Minnesota. All right, and maybe the darling of the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
So the Thunder, man, I almost when I looked at this, I was like, do I have a question? Because they've got so much depth. I love this team. I loved watching this team last year. They have so much depth. I love their additions of Caruso. Love addition of Isaiah Hartenstein. So with that be said, sometimes when you have so much talent, which is a good problem to have, that's not a bad thing. Okay, well, how are they closing games? And what are they doing particularly at the 5? They've seemed to like, Mark Daigneault seemed to like a stretch 5. So that bodes well for Chet. But then one of their glaring weaknesses was rebounding. And that's what you brought iHeart in here for, Isaiah Hartenstein, who's a fantastic rebounder, fantastic offensive rebounder. How are you closing? Is Caruso part of these closing lineups, along with J-Dub, along with obviously SGA? And you would think Chet would be on the floor. But are you playing Hartenstein at the 5, Chet at the 4? What are you doing there? But what I like for Daigneault is he's got options here. So I want to be clear. I love the options that he has. And I
Mhm.
think that's what's going to make the Thunder so strong, Jarod, is that they have these options.
Yep.
So I might be answering my own question. I think they could close a game with one lineup that you might see against one matchup, another. But the fact that they've got the versatility is good. I just wonder what you see more, particularly for Chet and for
Yeah.
iHeart, who's on the floor
Yeah.
to close these games late.
Yeah, they have elasticity, right? Which I think is so
Yes.
necessary in today's game. My question for them is, will they stay the course or will they make a move? And what I mean by that is that they have a ton of draft capital still and a bunch of young guys on this team. And we know how this all works. Everybody can't get paid all at once. It's going to have to be things get moved, whatever. We mentioned a player before when we talked about at the beginning of this, who's on an also ran team, the Utah Jazz, and Lauri Markkanen, right? Do they make a move to bring in a player of that caliber to pair with SGA and J Dub, right? And now we're ready to cook, right? Now it's like, okay, we're going for this championship right now, right? And I think, again, I'm not saying that that's happening. That's my question. Are they just going to stay with what they're doing? We hope that Jillian is going to become an all-star, going to let Chet develop. Well, okay. Or are they going to say, look, we can package and we got the capital and we'll have cap space. Let's make a move. Let's sign another all-NBA caliber player to play with Shea. And we believe J Dub's going to be an all-star. Now this is our big three. We've got the ancillary pieces. We're ready to roll. I don't know. We'll see.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because I think that question is I think whether we like it or not, the question is coming for them.
For sure.
Right.
And again, they don't have to decide now, but maybe they want to get ahead of it and say, okay, this is what we kind of think we should do. This is the direction we're going in. So it'll be very fascinating to see where they are. All right, I want to close out here with this. I could not let you leave without talking about your beloved New York Knicks. How you feeling about the Cat trade? And we've talked about on this show, David and I, Chris Thorpe and I, our concern, number one concern with the Knicks is, will Thibodeau deliver everybody to the postseason as healthy as possible? You know how we think no, but I want to hear from you.
All right, so it's funny because you and I have not talked about the Cat trade. I did when I first heard it. I didn't like it at first. I did it, and the reason I did, and look, I'm not into the whole Cat is soft.
All that stupid stuff.
You know how I look
Right.
at basketball, and I'm not into that. My concern with Cat on the team is nothing to do with softness. I think Cat is a really talented player. He's good. Talked to people around with the Timberwolves who told me even with all the stuff he's dealt with in his life, he came back last year from injury and was really focused. And these are the things I've heard that was good. Nobody said he was a bad teammate, any of that stuff. It's here. When you watch Cat, especially in the playoffs, he would have these dumb ticky-tack fouls that would keep him on the floor. I need you as a player, as somebody who watches the sport at the high level. You want to see your best player, coaches, you want to see your best player on the floor. You got to stay on the floor in high leverage moments. Cat has the ability to do that and be a game changer. We saw that in the series against the Nuggets last year, where he played last playoffs, where he played really well. Right, Jarod? When he didn't play well against the Mavericks, he was making those fouls. And that's what kept him off the floor, and that hurt the Timberwolves. The Knicks are going to need him, particularly against the Sixers, against the Celtics, against the Bucks, the teams that they're going to be competing with for the East. I get what this trade does for the Knicks offensively, and I actually do think it was a smart move by the Knicks here to say, okay, we lack the depth at center. Let's become
you needed somebody because you got no Mitchell Robinson's hurt, so you need somebody.
And one of the things I've wanted for years, Jarod, not necessarily saying that it was Karl-Anthony Towns, but it was, I like a little bit more offensive versatility in my center. I'm not a big fan of just rim running only centers. That's not really what I particularly like. So getting a little bit more offensive versatility. And I think the Knicks were thinking about this, which the Knicks front office has been competent. How do we put pressure on Boston, who's got Kristaps Porzingis when he comes back healthy? Joel Embiid, these are guys who can stretch our centers away. How do we now put pressure on them defensively? So I like what they were thinking there. That's so I've come around on the trade.
Okay.
I didn't love it at first. I see it now, but here's what it's going to come down. It's going to come down to what I said. I think the Knicks are going to be very good. I think the Knicks are going to be a very good team if they are get to the playoffs healthy, which is a concern that you have. But when they are in the playoffs, is Cat playing smart? I think what this trade told me is the Knicks are buying in on the leadership of Jalen Brunson,
Right.
which I actually believe in,
Mm-hmm.
and their
Their
culture and
culture.
what they've built the
Mhm.
last couple of years. I think that's what this tells you. And I'm fine with that. But Cat's got to deliver on that. Nobody's asking Cat to come in here and be a superstar. Cat's got to be a great secondary player
Mhm.
to Jalen Brunson
Mhm.
and be on the floor when it counts and don't make dumb fouls. If he does that, the Knicks he'll do fine in New York.
So one of the questions I had about your Knicks was obviously, do we think Thibodeau will deliver your players to April fresh? No. But my second question is, beyond your top 7,
Mm-hmm.
who does he trust on that team?
Look, so we're talking the top 7. We're obviously talking Brunson. We're talking Bridges. We're
Mhm.
talking Josh Hart.
Mhm.
We're talking Mikal Bridges, OG
Mhm.
Anunoby, Towns,
Mhm.
Precious Chua,
Right.
and Miles McBride.
Right. Or
Okay.
I was counting Mitchell Robinson because when he's back, right?
Oh,
So
count Mitchell Robinson. He's
okay.
back too. So Mitchell Robinson then would be in that. That's
That's 8.
8
So
players
you
I
think
just
he
mentioned.
trusts McBride? McBride, you think he trusts?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I do.
Okay.
Oh, the Knicks are high on McBride. I think he trusts McBride.
Okay.
I think McBride's gonna have a good season.
Okay.
I think he'll be in the 6th man of the year conversation.
Okay. So
I'm
is
high
8 enough? Are 8 players enough?
8 enough for what, Jarod? Because like when you ask that, are you saying enough to trust or enough to get you to where you need to go?
Enough to get you to where I think Knicks fans believe this team can get to, which is a conference finals, possibly an NBA finals if everything breaks right.
Yeah, and then you have the delusional Knicks fans that think they're going to go switch 70 games.
Right,
Or whatever,
which,
right?
come on, stop.
No, to me, 8 is not enough. The key is going to be what do they get? Who the guys look in the preseason? What do they get out of Landry Shamet, who looks like he could be the 9th guy? You're going to need him off the bench. I personally, I've talked to you about this at the end of last season.
Mhm.
I would like to see Tom Thibodeau go 10 deep on most nights.
Fat chance.
I'm asking for a lot. I know. So I'm going to throw out. Now, what do they get? Right? Is he going to play Jericho Sims off the bench? And this is even before Mitchell Robinson comes back.
Right.
Or are we going to see a guy I would say Knicks fans should keep a watch on? He's played very well in the preseason, and I loved what I saw out of him in Summer League. That is Tyler Kolek.
Okay.
Another guard who can help you. Oh, you know who I forgot to mention off the bench? Who's going to be ahead of Kolek? I forgot about Campaign. I forgot about that.
Will he play Campaign?
I think so.
Okay.
So let's look at it like this. The starting 5 looks like it's going to be
Mhm.
Brunson,
Mhm.
Josh Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, Karl-Anthony Towns.
Mhm. When Robinson is
change.
back, I anticipate that changing. Yes, when Robinson's back.
Yeah, I've heard that the Knicks want to play Towns at center mostly.
Oh,
So
okay.
does Robinson come back and play off the bench?
Okay.
Or is they going to start him and slide Cat to the 4? What I think the Knicks should say is they should be a little bit like the Thunder. Maybe have some elasticity. Excuse me, couldn't say that word. And some flexibility. And maybe, mix and match and see how that goes. I don't think they have to be rigid to this one thing. Look, if Robinson comes back and is healthy, it'll definitely change up things for them in the depth. Because let's say he even comes off the bench. Now you have him off the bench. You got Miles McBride off the bench. You have Campaign off the bench. You have Landry Shamet.
Okay.
Precious Achua.
Okay.
I personally think, but this is the concern for you and Coach Thorpe. Now if you think about that, you're like, that's not a bad 10-man rotation.
It's not.
But are you going to play 10, Tibbs? The goal has to be, this is what I'll say. The Knicks have the talent to be a mid-50s win team this season.
They could fight for the 1 seed for sure against Boston. Boston will probably win it, but
especially because Boston will be without Kristaps Porzingis for 2+ months. Okay. But do you have to, how hard are you going for that 1 seed? And Knicks generally do go hard for things under Tibbs.
Tibbs does for sure.
But my thing is, at what cost?
Right.
I'm fine with having guys play at a high level. I'm fine for going for the 1 seed, but play 10 guys.
Right. Yeah.
You want to get there healthy.
I agree.
You don't need to play. I don't want to see Josh Hart starting and playing 38 minutes a night.
Well,
nobody's.
And this is my fear, right? Is that to grind out those 55 wins or 56 wins, he's gonna be like, it's gonna be a random game in January that it goes to double overtime and Jalen Brunson plays 52 minutes, and I'm gonna be like, bro, why? Why?
You and I talk about that. You and I talked about this a ton. I remember a phone call you and I had about this at the end of last season. You're like, look, man, his thing with Tibbs, and he's burning players out. And sometimes I feel like Tibbs has gotten, I don't want to say unfair because it's not
Oh, it's
unfair. I
very
want to say
fair.
it's very fair. I feel like it's become more the spotlight on him. But I do think the spotlight is warranted, particularly in this season where the expectations have been raised for the Knicks
Yes.
fairly.
Mhm.
This, I, as somebody who covers them and does a
Mhm.
show about them and all this stuff, I think that they have a legit shot to be Eastern Conference Finals. I think anything less than that will be disappointing for Knicks fans, and I don't think that's unfair.
Mhm.
They have the talent to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have the talent to challenge Boston.
Agreed.
But you got to get there.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that there's a way, exact one way to get
Right,
there. But
right.
what I am saying is learn some things about your 8th, 9th,
Correct.
10th man
Correct.
in the regular season, which is the point you were making to me,
Correct.
because you're the person who brought this point up to me, so that you can know things if injuries do come up.
Which
when
they
you tighten
will.
your rotation, they will. Or when you get to the playoffs, you say, "Oh, I'm only playing 8 guys." We understand everybody tightens their rotation in the
Right.
playoffs. I get it. I also don't understand the notion of why you have to do that. But
Although not
everybody
every
feels
team, Indiana Pacers don't tighten their rotation.
this is true.
They keep their guys rolling.
They have it, and I'll add another team in there that didn't do this. They had 8 players played more minutes, but they still were playing 9 or 10, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Correct.
So whether it was your 9th or 10th man maybe getting 5 minutes in a game, still that's 5 minutes that somebody else doesn't have to work as hard.
Mhm.
That's something I'd like to see. And then you can learn a lot. So if Tyler Kolek, who I'm probably the odd man out as the 11th man when Mitchell Robinson comes back, but let's say when Mitchell Robinson doesn't come back and he's the 10th man. Well, now you're learning things about him in the situation of what he can bring to the table for you. You're going to learn about what Jericho Sims can do. You know what that's part of, folks, that we talked about at the top of this podcast? Development. Oh, what a thing. Development. How great that would be, Jarod, to do that. So, yeah, I would like to see some in-season development for some of these young guys at the end of rotation because it'll bode well for them in the playoffs.
I love it. Dexter, man, appreciate having you on. Tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, everybody, you can find me on New York Post Sports or SNY YouTube channels. My basketball show, weekly basketball show, New York Got Game, drops every Monday. Jarod will be back in studio. The last time Jarod was in studio with me, he might have annoyed some Knicks fans and some Nets fans. I don't know if he'll do that again next year.
I was giving him. I was like, look, man, I got some hope for
He
y'all.
was out here giving facts. You know what I mean? So when Jarod comes and Jarod talks to me, and Jarod also will be on with me many times throughout the season for NBA talk. We always bring nuance like you guys do here on True Hoop. So enjoy some of the great conversations myself and Jarod. We got a lot coming soon. You can check me out there, and you can follow me on social media at DHenryTV on all platforms.
Appreciate
Jarod,
you.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on True Hoop. As I said at the top, I'm a huge fan of True Hoop. I'm a subscriber. I listen to you guys every week. I love the work you do. Please keep it up. Obviously love you, bro, and just keep up the great work.
Appreciate you, man. That meant a lot. And again, thank you for being on. And listeners, thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend. David will be back next week. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not Monday, maybe Thursday, but we'll continue with our NBA preview stuff. All right, guys. Take care.